is neither. We're gonna do neither. We're gonna cast Snute's Replay of the Month, and then we'll do one of those. But this is the Snute Replay of the Month, where Snute, the Norwegian professional player, sends out a replay pack to his subscribers, and the best replay, his favorite game he played the entire month. And that's what we're doing now. Let me introduce you to the challenger. Obviously, we're a little biased here. I'm not going to hide that. I'm a big Snute fan. One of the best, probably the best stream to learn from when he actually streams and isn't focused on actually, I don't know, on winning tournaments, rather. But in the bottom right, it is from OSCE. I'm not actually sure what that stands for. Can I see down there? What is this? OSC Elite. Alright. Anyway, Soul, a Grandmaster Terran. And in the top left, it is from Norway, from Team Liquid. It is Snute. And we're on Ascension to Ire. Zerg versus Terran, the newest balance patch heading into 2018. So what does this mean for Terran versus Zerg compared to how it's been historically in Legacy of the Void? The big thing are changes to mech for Terran. There aren't too many big changes for Zerg against Terran, even against mech, dramatically, until later on. Well, we'll talk about the Infestor if we get to it. But the big ones are mech upgrades. There's new upgrades that have been added. There's the Super Transformer Hellions into Hellbats and Thors. The Smart Servos upgrade on the factory, which allows you to transform your Hellions, your Vikings, and your Thors into their alternative mode much more quickly. On top of that, bases now have a little bit more in the way of minerals and a little bit more in the way of gas, which means you can play somewhat more defensive and not mine out as quickly. You aren't punished as hard for taking later bases, and this overall benefits mech, because mech is an army composition that relies on hitting a critical mass. You can't just go take another base like you can if you're sending 2 medevacs out on the map. So we'll have to see. Bio is still very strong and still very popular, but it's also been kind of figured out. Hydraling Bane out of Zerg players is a very common strategy, so we'll have to see. He's going to be starting off with Hellions, but Hellions don't necessarily mean anything. Hellions could easily transition into more barracks. They could transition into some sort of early push, or they could mean he's going for mech. You can't really get a tell off of this quite yet. But there's Zerglings searching around, probably looking for any sort of proxies. Gonna find out that's not the case. Snute with his trademark heavy queen style, adding on some more. And the Lings are going to converge alongside the Overlord, which is going to be able to scout out the front. Now that's another important change to point out. Overlords are now 5% faster. Slow Overlords, that is, without Overlord speed. They are 5% faster than they were, which allows you to get into these positions, in safe positions to get scouting information significantly quicker. It adds up over time than you could before. Alright. Snute laying down his third, a little bit on the later side. Looks like he wanted to make sure he had the queens and the ability to creep. Not really cutting into his economy very much, and pulling off a gas right after he gets enough for Zergling speed to maximize the minerals. Alright. The Reaper will get a scout in. It'll probably take a look for the third. Get a beat on that, and realize Snute's not going for some crazy 2-base, going for a quick lair, anything like that. Well, this is a Liberator. Now, this looks like it will lead into mech. You usually don't opt for the Liberator early on, because it delays anything else you're going to be getting onto this starport. It'll delay your medevacs later on. But if you're planning on going for mech, you don't have to worry so much about getting those medevacs out early, because you don't really want medevacs as much unless they're for something like Thor drops. And for those of you who don't know, Thor drops are not a meme, they're not a joke, they're a real thing, and they're very dangerous. If they drop the hammer down at the wrong time, your base is gone. You can lose the game outright with a Thor Hellbat push. We'll have to see. Well, speaking of which, I guess we are going to see medevacs. No armory, so this means it's going to be for a Hellion drop. Snute has made some Zerglings and is looking for the backstab. He has a beat on the wall, but Soul is closing it up with the third command center. Alright, a couple Hellions. He's spreading them out here, just trying to get a beat on where the Zerglings are coming from. If this third command center is canceled, he's actually going to have to pull the SCV. Snute waiting until the Hellions were committed across the map, and he's going to cancel this third command center. There you go. break down the wall and force all the SCVs back. A dozen Lings. And now Sol has been slowed down significantly. The medevac has been scouted. And Snute sees all these Hellions. He sees the canceled third, and he says, yeah, sure, I can make 10 more drones. Why not? I'm not... A Liberator was clean. The Liberator was killed, I believe, in the main base. It was headed there. Looks like it sieged up. Got a few drones, and then was picked off. Right? Yeah. But it is going to be mech behind. We do see the factories on the way, but Snute does have to hold this off. The armory's only halfway done. So the Hellbats, without Hellbats, you can't really engage the Queens. Once you do have them, there is going to be a drop in the main. Only a single Queen to defend. It looks like Snute is now reacting. The drone's going to try to be roasted, but the Lings are coming up to defend. It should push this away. The Hellions just don't have the HP they need. Alright. Yeah, the Queens are continuing to push out. We should see Snute taking a fourth base rather soon. He does have 57 drones already. And there we go. Snute taking a fourth. And this is just to get that extra production. As a Zerg player, you build a lot of units. Oh, thank you for cheering me. I hope to show good games and cast good games. I want to thank my fans. I want to thank my team for believing me. Thank you for cheering me. Alright. Behind this Sol just now taking another third, it's going to be the double Thor hammer drop behind. But there are banelings on the way. Snute should have the defenses against this. He should realize this is a threat. And right now, he's at 64 drones. It's time to calm down. Let's try to calm down and defend. He's got plenty of Banes on the way. He's actually going for 1-1 for Hydralisk, Infestation Pit for Swarm Host. So the Ling Bane is just to deflect this initial push. But there are going to be 10 Hellbats, a medevac, well, several medevacs, including the ones with the Thors inside. He boosts forward. There is no Baneling speed. There are no upgrades on the ground, right? And the Thors can tank a lot of those Baneling hits. Of course, they're not so great against the Zerglings, but the Banelings don't really get the connections. Now the Queens have to push this back. Has Snute underestimated the power of Thors? He's just chipping through all the damage here. There's nothing to repair the Thors, but the medevacs can help micro them back. And once the Banelings are gone, the Hellbats reign supreme. A few more Banelings coming in. He's trying to get the best connections he possibly can, forcing out the splits as Snute continues to struggle. One of the medevacs will be taken out, reducing the micro and the healing potential. The Queens themselves are healing. The Hellbats finally being cleaned up. Snute trickles in from all the angles, and it looks like finally the Thors are going to have to evacuate. If he loses the Thor drops, one more medevac goes down, and that means that Thor is going to find himself in the grave. If he lost both, while he still hasn't fully taken his third base, that could have been a bigger advantage for Snute. He holds it off, but damage was done. He didn't really kill any workers here. Now, it's 7 total, including the Liberator and everything else. And that was a lot of Lings and Banes forced out. It slowed down Snute's tech. He wasn't getting the muscular augments. He wasn't starting the hive. He was focused on that push. So Sol, he did well with it, but it wasn't the game winner he wanted. And unfortunately, Snute dives into the third base before the tanks and Hellbats are here. This might need a little bit of repair. But the mech upgrades are on the way. He has +2 weapons. +1 is complete. +2 weapons just started. No armor. So he still feels like he needs to be producing this unit. It's no double armory. But Snute is now taking the map. He's got the 4th. Wrong button. He's got 78 drones. A hive on the way. +2 attack coming up. As well as +1 melee. It's still going to be a Hydra Ling Bane type of composition. We might see some Swarm Hosts added in. Those Lings aren't going to make it. Almost taking out a tank with a friendly fire. But the Hellions are looking for an opportunity. He doesn't have the smart servos yet, right? He should be starting that soon so he can transform those Hellions into Hellbats. Have a better chance of doing damage. Well, we do have the Liberators on the way as everybody's kind of retreated their corners. Oh, thank you for cheering me as well. I want to just show good games for my fans. Thank you. But this mech army, it's 159 to 156 now supply, and Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. But Ultralisk not particularly great against mech, especially if they have no support. This is a strong push, and this base is looking very vulnerable right now. The +2/+1 is not done. The baneling speed is not done. The Ultralisk Cavern is not done. This is not somewhere Snute can fight. This is not the low ground he wants to die on. This hill, instead, is where he needs to hold. 177, the full mech force. The mechanized industrial complex just pushes forward. A 4th base is behind this. It's not like Sol is all in. This is just a strong +2 timing. And now that +2 is finishing up, this base has been taken out. Snute knew there was no chance of defending that. The seconds are ticking down. Baneling speed, +2 range. The Ultralisk Cavern has completed. But he has to just find the right engagement angle. Those +2 tanks. An engineering bay is here just to draw some of the fire, distract the units, put them in a bad spot. But Snute is getting ready to flank in from almost a 270-degree arc. Some of the banelings looking for an option. There are still some queens in here. Queens, not that high DPS, but a lot of tankiness, and they do have those transfuses. He's ready to engage. Here comes Snute from every angle. He's got the Liberators at the back, the Queens to reinforce the main push. The banelings crash through the front line, and Snute wipes out the mech army. It takes a lot of the Hydras, all the banelings, most of the Lings. But Snute crushes it, and he will force Sol into retreat. He does have that Hive Tech to fall back on. +3 is on the way. We should see the chitinous plating. Aspire, there's everything, as Snute now has the map once again. The blue flame Hellbat standing in front, just a handful of tanks. Can Snute actually fight into this? This might be a mistake. That does not seem like the best fight there. Snute giving Sol some breathing room by giving away those Hydralisks. Bit of a mistake there. That definitely wasn't a fight he could take, especially with the +2. There's only +1 armor on the Hydras. Those tanks, with their weapon upgrades, just start hitting so incredibly hard. Snute's still at 76 drones, but Sol matches him at 4 bases and 76 SCVs. Some Liberators are trying to go out to get some harass done, but Sol can't afford to split off much of his army. He's only at 129 supply, and 53 of that is an army. They're the smart servos. They do not affect Liberators and siege tanks. The Ewoks go about their lives ignorantly, as Ewoks have a tendency to do. The Hellions trying to clean up some of the creep, but there are just so many tumors. He needs a specialized oncologist, and the Hellions just aren't quite cutting it. The Liberator will pull some of Snute's units back, but now we're going to that maxed out stage. Hive Tech is done. 4 bases for the Terran. We're at Tier 3, but neither player can really afford to go for the end game. We're talking ranged Liberators, Ghost, Battlecruisers for the Terran. We're talking Vipers, Broodlords, Corruptors, Infestors for the Zerg. We're at the late game, but we're not at the end game, because both of these players are still vulnerable to strong pushes in the next few minutes. So now Snute, we should see a Spire. Where's the Spire, Snute? You know you won't necessarily break this like this. This is not a great angle. This army can be cut off. The Lings will shark around. They don't have adrenal glands, a little bit of an oversight. The adrenal glands allow them to attack so much faster. It's an incredible DPS upgrade if they're actually allowed to make the difference. Alright, the wall has been breached. The banelings will roll in, the tanks will not hold. It's core all over again. The mech army has to come back. These Ultralisks can take a pounding. They do have their armor. The tanks are doing their best. They will eventually be cleaned up, but this base has been lifted. Alright. Now this frees up the middle of the map. Any units that are out there will immediately be slaughtered. The SCVs maybe not transferring into the best location. The Ultras will chase them down. All the tanks retreated from the planetary. Snute hit on the right, and now he's swinging back to the left. But there is building armor done. High-stack auto-tracking is not, but building armor will allow this planetary to hold. The worker transfer actually made it all the way here. Only 9 workers will die. The Ultralist is blasted away. And Snute needs to back up, regroup, consolidate, and think about his next attack. There's not that much. He's maxed out again, But Sol still has good economy. 67 SCVs. He's still got command centers all over the place. Plenty of production. We're talking 7 factories right now. Just continuing. He seems intent on this ground army. No Vipers, just brute force. Lings and Lisks all over the place. Ultralisk coming in from the north, a little bit disjointed. Vikings will hit the deck, and we've seen how that's gone before, but these Vikings will survive. More Ultras are thrown away as Snute just continues to channel the swarm. He refuses to go Spire. He refuses to go Infester. Anything with a purple bar that isn't a queen is just not worth it. And Sol is bleeding right now. He's down to 140 supply. He keeps losing tanks. He's lost well, he hasn't actually really lost any bases. But the queens now, the backbone, the Ultralisks don't need to go it alone. Once they have their queens behind them, they can take so many more hits. Their transfuses almost full energy across the board. He's got 10 queens. He's got 5 ultras. He has lings and lists to spare. The tanks are exposed. The ultras will go forward. The creep extends almost to the front line. Sol continues to try to hold, but he's being broken. The back of the planetary looks like it will be smashed. Where are the tanks? Where are the Thors? 100 supply. GG. Snute has broken him. In style. Didn't want to slow it down. Didn't want to go for that boring Broodlord long game. Just keep hammering on him till he breaks. And, of course, having that Carapace upgrade and having the queens were the final nail in the coffin. That was pretty good.